welcome to Reimagine 2020. I'm Yonah Hochhauser, and today I am glad to be joined by Eduardo Colman, Global Innovation Manager at Anheuser-Busch InBev. Eduardo, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, Yonah. I'm very glad to be here for the second time in less than a year. Thank you for having me again.
Awesome. Let's do this every month. Now, when people think of beer and beverages, but beer, they usually don't think of cutting-edge software innovation. What the hell does Anheuser-Busch have to do with software?
Software or blockchain?
Well, let's talk about blockchain. I mean, listen, blockchain, that's the thing. We're talking about blockchain technologies. I mean, what does it have to do with beer?
It's true that it's not a very clear-cut question to answer. But I think for the people in the audience of this event, I think that they can make the connections. But the easy answer, I would say, is, Anheuser-Busch is such a big company. Anheuser-Busch InBev is such a big company. We, brew beer all around the world. We source ingredients from many different parts, many different suppliers, many different farmers. We transform those raw materials into a beverage, a variety of those, in fact. And then we distribute those to our consumers, and we make sure that their quality is top notch and that people can enjoy it responsibly, but fully. In this process that I have described, you might have noticed in a very implicit way, many processes that happen, right? So there's transportation above all, ensuring that our product goes to all of our consumers and our customers that order them. There is transactions, of course. We do own some retail. We do also, have to sell our beer in a way. So we got to take care of those financials. There are processes like quality. There is sourcing procurement from external sources, which have to be, trustworthy and checked. I think that only in those couple of sentences, our blockchain experts and blockchain enthusiasts that are following us today will see that there is potential for using such a technology.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I think it's pretty clear now what the front runner is in terms of real world use cases so far for blockchain, which is supply chain. It does. Do you think that's because it is the best use for blockchain for enterprise, or just the easiest one that people have thought of and the easiest one to implement into traditional businesses so far? And as the technology progresses, we'll see another use case take the lead in enterprise.
I think it's easy because analogically speaking, you're talking about a network with nodes, right? Supply chain is bringing products from one end to another while transforming them. And those products, whether transformed or not yet, have to move around the network where people take ownership for a brief period of time of the physical good that is being moved around, right? So there are very similar aspects with the technology that we are talking about, because we're talking about a technology that is based on a network, a digital network, different, but a concept of decentralization and necessary, I would say, exchange of flow of a certain asset, right? Which in the case of the technology will be information, transactional information. So because of that, I think it's easy to think, clear cut, open blockchain systems are a fit for mapping the supply chain and creating traceability in an immutable way, thanks to its properties. So I think it's easy to wrap one's head around it. I'm not sure it's the easiest thing to do, though. it is quite a challenge. But I think that because of the reason I try to explain is why people tend to think that it is a very good fit for supply chain traceability and transparency.
Well, what are some of these challenges, some of these big challenges you just mentioned? What is the hardest part about trying to integrate blockchain into, which is a bleeding edge, it's a very new technology, only 10 so years old, it's very new. What is the biggest challenge of taking that and trying to integrate that into a giant traditional corporation like AB InBev?
We have 45 minutes. I can go on for 45 minutes if you want. No, just kidding. So there's a number of challenges, right? Which is why it's interesting. Which is why we have a motto in our company is challenge accepted, and I think this is one of them. But I would say taking a couple of steps back before going into specifics. Like you said, right? It's a very new technology, and it's a technology that people. I would say the people that are most familiar with it are either technologists that had some kind of prior interest or expertise in one of the big domains that intersect the blockchain technology. So we can talk about cryptography, we can talk about macroeconomics, we can talk about digital distributed systems, we can talk about computer science. So all those people are one group of people that really understands the underlying concepts that power this technology. And then you have, I would say, fairly like younger people, right? That were in academia recently, and that especially those that were in the STEM fields, right? The science, technology, engineering, math, because they kind of intersect again with the blockchain domain. And they have done research. I'm, by the way, one of them. A lot of research on their own, because in the, let's call it formal academia, there's not yet, I think, very widespread common education, formal education on this technology. Once again, because it is very recent, right? So you have these groups of people, which, in my opinion, are the ones that understand the technology the most. And see the potential because of their understanding, right? Then we come into the enterprise world, and we come into, there's various degrees of those. There is, startups which are fresh, like companies that are often based on cutting edge technology, at least here in the Silicon Valley, and often play in that space, have experts. We can talk about mouse belt. Although it's growing fast, so I'm not sure it's fair to call it a startup anymore. But and then you have those big ones, right? Anheuser-Busch InBev being an example, and those are companies that have been around for some more than a century, right? So they're like strong business legacy concepts that exist, and they have thrived on those for decades. No part of the business and the operation never even thought that they could exploit such a technology, right? So I think one big challenge out of the many that we can talk about is bringing a change of mindset, is bringing a different way of thinking about the operations that bring your product to life. In the case of physical products, especially, because there's, like you said in the beginning, it's not really clear. Like at first glance, very superficially, what are we going to do with blockchain? We make beer. We have factories that make beer, right? So I think there needs to be a change of mindset that is catalyzed by an education on this technology. Mm-hmm. So AI has been around for a while, right? It's a natural development of our proliferation of data production. Create data, data is now like more valuable than petrol, supposedly, at times, right? So you have to create a way of using this data intelligently. And so it's a fairly, you know, natural progression. Blockchain, the open public blockchain that was first introduced by Satoshi Nakamoto in 2008, at the cusp of the economic crisis, the subprime mortgage crisis, what is not a natural progression of anything. It is a very complex, non-evident combination of, I would say, already existing or work that people have done in those different fields that I cited earlier on, in a perfect way to create, you know, a space of decentralized mass collaboration powered by a collective self-interest. So getting to the understanding of this beast is a tough job, right? And I think that partly, you know, the reason why, first of all, it's because it's very new, right? But the reason why there is not as much traction is because it's not a natural progression. It's because it's a thing that you have to study, right? So if we want the enterprise world and our big legacy business companies to understand, accept this technology for what it is and not for what some hypes or misinterpretations or propagandistic criticism try to portray it, I think education is key. And that's why we need to keep on talking about it, to keep on, you know, talking about the open blockchain, talk about where it came from, and value really the facts and the way the underlying concepts rather than the superficial layer of hype, I would say. And that's key to acceptance and adoption in the enterprise world, in my opinion.
Now, you know, you are, I don't know if you're the head, but you work for the beer garage in AB InBev. You want to explain to our viewers a little bit what the beer garage is and what its purpose is?
Yeah, for sure. So the head of the beer garage is not me. I am part of the team. And we are, so we have two offices. One is based in Silicon Valley, where I am right now, in Mountain View, California, and the other is in Tel Aviv, Israel. We are the internal facing innovation arm of the company. So our beer garage, you know, sits in the global division. We have, we are full part of our technology department, and our focus is innovation. So we are in a privileged position in the sense that our offices are based in two very emerging tech ecosystems. Like I said, Silicon Valley and Tel Aviv, you know, many startups generate, there's a lot of research and development that happens around here. So interesting technologies, but we also work a lot with the business, of course, right? So we have focuses in different parts, you know, including the supply chain, which is very prominent part of very important part of our business, but also marketing, commercial sides, sustainability, procurement, ever-growing, you know, priority for our business. And so we are kind of the intermediary between this wave of innovation and emerging technology and the business needs and challenges that we have internally. So our goal is really to always have an ear and an eye on the external ecosystem to see what are interesting technologies that might serve our business, while simultaneously have an eye and an ear for the business to understand what are the main priorities, the main challenges, and create this, I would say, bridge between the external ecosystem of technology that is emerging and our business needs, and wherever possible, integrating those technologies into our business to create innovative solutions.
Well, and as the internal innovation team, I'm sure you guys come up with all types of wacky ideas about how you guys could innovate and improve the overall company. First off, what does that process look like? Is it just you and the guys and girls at the beer garage, spitballing ideas and then then do you have to go to corporate and say, hey, this is our crazy idea and they have to prove it, or do you guys get a chance on your own to kind of think of idea, make a proof of concept, throw it all together, and then once you actually have a proof of concept ready, then corporate hears about it?
Amazing question. Thanks, Yonah. It's a very good question because, like I said, right, we're kind of a little bit of this middle layer between the very fresh startups, new mindset, the fast technology, and the big established company that has thrived for decades on legacy business systems. So it is not an evident process. We try to follow though a framework that we call a 6-step process. I think hugely inspired by Steve Blank's lean startup processes. So the way we do this is first of all, the team is structured in a way that we sort of help. Each of us has a focus on a department, a part of the business, right? So the ones I cited previously, you have manufacturing, you have logistics, you have marketing, you have sales, procurement, sustainability. So we try to establish, relationships to truly understand what the needs are inside of the company. That's, I would say, the trigger of the process, listening to the way our business works and what are the challenges. Once we have a solid understanding of what the priorities are, we can go and explore the market in a directed way. We can, explore different ecosystems, go to specific events and conferences, work with a number of different partners to find the appropriate off-the-shelf products, and then we go back to our business, because this is our role. Right? We help the business to include innovation and create value from those, and we introduce those new solutions to the business, and then we assess the validity or appropriateness of the solution in terms of the initial challenge, right? And if it is a fit, we then experiment, try it out, and see if everything works well. Then maybe we can scale it up to our different locations or different countries, depending on the nature of the solution, right? So this is, I would say, our heavy lifting, and I would say 80%, right? We try between 70 and 80% of what we bring back to the business comes from needs. So things that they ask us to look for or find a solution for. We still have room though for what you were saying, right? Finding very far-fetched ideas, based on new technologies, or based on it could be even physical products. It doesn't have to be digital, and pitch those to the business, because we think that it solves an unrecognized need or brings a unrecognized value into our business. And the last part, I would say, of our process, and certainly not least, and certainly growing, is our Beer Garage Incubator. So throughout the Beer Garage Incubator, which for now has been taking place in the summer, we build solutions for the business internally, meaning we don't take off-the-shelf products. We source problems or challenges internally from the company, and then we spend almost 3 months in our space here in the Valley, partnering with, bringing in talent from universities, partnering with different technical resources from the ecosystem, and creating minimum valuable products, or MVPs, prototypes, to solve these challenges that we initially sourced. And I think this is this is an amazing opportunity for us to do exactly what you were referring to, which is bringing in real innovation, things that do not exist, that are maybe far-fetched, if some will call it that way, but that really bring disruption and novelty inside of the company, from which we can create those mindsets that I was talking about in the beginning. So this is a little bit of what we do.
And so where does blockchain fall in on that? Does it fall into that innovation, the incubator, or does it fall under the traditional beer garage?
Well, I don't think that there's any obstacle for it to exist in any of those, right? I think that it's fair game to say that there is potential for blockchain projects in the build. There's potential for blockchain projects if we examine the challenges and the needs that the company has and the desires that the company has, and there is also to you know, push products that are already made into the company that are based on this technology. If you want, I will complete your question and say where is the most, you know, probable blockchain, where will the most, well, oh, sorry, I'll restart. Where will the first blockchain solution that we will have from this point onwards appear? I would say maybe in our first bucket, in our connect bucket with the business that asks us for help with certain challenges and needs. Because I think that, you know, when the business calls for a solution that will use blockchain as its core, it will be for big things, and therefore we will need a strong team and a strong group to develop those, and it has more, I would say, chance of success and survival and scale in our company rather than small proof of concepts.
So far there hasn't been, you haven't received a problem yet from corporate that you think that you would say, oh, yeah, this is the blockchain one.
No, we do, right? We've had a couple of blockchain, I would say, pilots that have been successful. I can name two right now that have been done in the past 2 years. One was with our partner BankQ for our ecosystem in Africa, our supply chain in Africa. It was indeed a supply chain, you know, solution for our farmers. So for our for the people that produce the raw materials that we need to produce our beer, very important. And it was about creating, giving those people a financial identity. You know, we're talking about Africa. We're talking about a place where almost 40%, I think, of the active population does not have proper access to banking. We were operating in Zambia primarily, and our goal was really to enable sustainability in our supply chain through this process, because what we've noticed is that those farmers were not always fairly compensated for the crops that they grew. We were specifically piloting this on cassava supply chain, which cassava is often an ingredient in beer. People might not know. Interesting fact. And because of this, you know, fair retribution of their work sometimes, and a system that was not diligent enough to take care of what was owed to people, plus the lack of a banking system and then a digital wallet that could keep track of this information, it breaks the sustainability aspect of a supply chain. And for our company, this was tremendously important. So we used the BankQ solution, which is a blockchain-powered infrastructure that gave our farmers a financial identity and a way to keep track of what was owed to them. and taking care of certain types of financial payments within their supply chain. So that was a big win, and it's keeping on going, and it's bringing huge benefits. The other one that I can mention is one that we've been developing fairly recently with a company called Chainyard that has developed a Trust Your Supplier product, which we are part of the governance board now. It is a solution that it targets mostly, I would say, procurement organization, because it is a blockchain, Hyperledger-based blockchain for supplier onboarding and supplier, I would say, identification. So it creates a network of suppliers with information that is validated by the network attached to each of the participants, which can be consulted by the other participants. So very easy access, trustworthy information to identify if a supplier is the right fit or not. And when this identification is done, the TYS platform enables a very fast, efficient onboarding process, very swift, based on this technology, a lot less friction, a lot less bureaucracy, and a lot more trust enabled by the blockchain platform. So those are two that we have already done, and we have dedicated teams that are pushing forward for developing them inside the company and making them grow.
Mm-hmm. And have you, in those two, and in your interactions with trying to actually get these proof of concepts and these actual pilot programs actually running, has it been tough to convince, the various actors in the supply chain to take this on? You're in San Jose, you're tech savvy, you're surrounded by startups, you're used to, oh, there's a new tech, yeah, it works, you tell me it works, I'll try it out. But when you're going to Africa and there's many stops along the way in the global supply chains, is it tough to actually get everyone, all the various players on board and say, hey, this is what we want to use now to start tracking?
It's a very good question. I think I'll go against your current, and I will say that, well, in the case of Africa, we had a very strong need from our customer base, talking about our internal product. So our customers were in need of a solution like that to keep track of their finances and what was owed to them, and creating a fair, sustainable supply chain. So for this specific case, it was not, I don't think it was that big of a challenge to convince people that we had a solution that was open, that was public, decentralized, and that anyone could use, neutral, to serve this purpose, right? It's precisely because of that it was a big success, because it was a big need, and he tackled a major problem. I think that in general, I talked about this example, but I'll take a step back and I will say, in general, typically where there is a need for a solution that is powered by the blockchain technology, open blockchain technologies, there should not be, people should not stop at this layer of very negatively prejudiced aspect of especially crypto-based open blockchains. People should understand first what this thing will create and the need that it will fulfill and the problem it will tackle. And then there will be no resistance. There will be, because there should not be, right? However, I would say that it is also wrong to try to push the blockchain technology where it is not really necessary and it is not really needed. And I think that, this is one of the fields in which people might have some hesitation or might, block the adoption of the technology, because they're like, really, do we need it? Isn't it over-engineering this problem to use blockchain, couldn't we just use a database, right? Especially if we need to control, if we need to the data to be centralized and to control it, then why do we need to create a blockchain if we have like 3 participants where one is the major source of the data? It doesn't really make sense. The other side of the medal, I would say, is when you have a company that is willing to use blockchain for an application, but perhaps has not sufficiently, and I'm just saying a company because I'm not talking about Anheuser-Busch InBev, could be any, has willingness, openness to use the technology, but perhaps has not a sufficiently expert team to really understand if it's a fit or not, right? Which is a very fair thing because of all the things I explained in the beginning. At this point in time, hopefully 10 years from now, hopefully this will not be the case anymore. And then you have blockchain opportunists that are companies that are using the word blockchain to resell their business, but their product is not really, does not bring all the benefits of the open, public, decentralized, token-based blockchains, I would say, which is, I think, in my opinion, you know, and everyone has an opinion. Anyone from the audience can feel free to agree or disagree. But my opinion is that the game changer is this type of blockchain. And if you try to recreate, if you try to put the word blockchain on a system that really is nothing more than a database that has multiple accessors to it, then there should be resistance and there should be opposition, because this is not the game changer. We need to focus on the game changer, especially in enterprise, because it has so much potential. Bringing in those like solutions that really deprive the entire concept of this decentralization, of you know, selfless trust in the network, and that have to rely on just, oh yeah, we have a you know, a set of a company that is our validator. Well, that is really bringing back the initial problem, which is the need for an intermediary, right? We're not creating this intermediation. We have to rely on a company that has to validate the information on the nodes or the transactions that go in the network. It is a very purist argument, and everyone can recognize that. But I think that it's possible for, it's like the internet and the intranet, right? AOL, right? Remember, I mean, I was a kid, like not even probably born when it all started, but companies were reluctant to use the internet. Companies were not open to, you know, we cannot be on the internet because we will jeopardize our information. But they were missing out on so much business and so many opportunities. And I think in a way, and I know I went on a complete tangent here, but in a way, this is where I think the blockchain the open blockchain systems will bring enterprise in the long term. And this is my hope, at least.
And when we're talking blockchain and enterprise, and specifically with AB InBev, when we're talking blockchain solutions, are we talking public, private, permissionless, permission? You know, are you guys just running this on Ethereum, or are you guys building your own protocol? Like what? How does the implementation work? You know, who are the nodes here?
Yeah. So it's a very good question. I think that there's no strict policy, first of all, of, you know, AB InBev as a company will use only permissioned, controlled environments. No. I think that it's a good thing that there are some projects that some platforms that are, you know, more gated communities, if we can use this analogy, because it's a good way to you know, test the technology and try to understand it without feeling that there will be a risk of exposing our proprietary information or our data that is sensitive in many ways to to actors that can potentially damage our image or our business. Or in general, ill-intentioned individuals that might, so a controlled environment is very good, I think, in the beginning, to educate and propose a feeling of comfort to the enterprises that are not used to these very open public networks. So the ones that I mentioned, for example, you have the TYS. The TYS built by Chainyard and based on Hyperledger is permissioned in different ways, where you have those, Hyperledger Fabric has those private collections that they can broadcast to different types of users, and you can see the information for certain suppliers only if you request and you have business with, or potential business with, those suppliers. So it's not a fully open system, but it brings, I think, a certain amount of value to the company at this point in time, because it is mildly decentralized, and you have different actors that have to access the system, and without this system would not benefit from all the information that is shared on it. So you can achieve a lot of, I think, for AB InBev at the moment, a lot of value adding activities by having more permissioned or I would say less, not fully open systems, right? Mm-hmm. Certain other applications will need, I think, in the future, that we will recognize that open systems, open token, crypto-based systems will be incredibly powerful and open so many doors for different parts of our business, right? And I think I'm thinking very far ahead. So there's no underlying project yet that is going on. But if we think about a futuristic supply chain, I think it was in one talk that Andreas Antonopoulos gave a few years ago. I cannot remember exactly where he was there, but talking about a society based on the blockchain technology. So thinking about supply chain, you would have trucks that travel with a load, and they will have beer in kegs or whatever products that first of all have all their trace back to their farmer if we want to know where they come from, but those trucks would transport the load, and there would be a blockchain system that would be able to, thanks to IoT and other gateways to objective information, track every mile that is traveled by this truck, and identify, thanks to GPS systems, which of those miles are effectively on the route that is supposed to bring the truck to the destination. And if it deviates from the route, then you can stop charging the customer for the part of the route that was deviated, because they did not mean to they wanted the most efficient. So things like that, where you would have smart contracts that get triggered at every mile. You would have smart contracts that are governed by the weight, the load, the weight that is carried in the load of this truck, would immediately trigger objectively, could also settle the balances much faster, because we're talking about, if we had a cryptocurrency that was specifically for logistics industry only, right? We could think about the settlement times, and there would be less need for long credit periods. It would revolutionize really the entire business, the entire industry, and it is very different. You need imagination to think about how the society would work in that context. But I think somewhere there, I think it's possible for us to end up in a society where really blockchain achieves its potential.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned a crucial initials there, IoT, and Internet of Things, which I think together they really complement each other, because blockchain is really, really incredible at making sure that the data you have is not manipulated or changed and can be trusted, but it still has the same problem of taking data, inputs and outputs is still the weak point for the system. And I think with the advancements of IoT, if you could have secure and reliable data inputs from IoT, so you have your inputs are good. You have a lot of data coming in into the blockchain that you know is correct and secure. And then once it's on the blockchain, that's obviously the best way to store it trustlessly, securely, and all the pros. And I think they really do make a great combination, like you mentioned, to want to have sensors on the truck, and then combine that with smart contracts that could then activate based off the data from the IoT. I mean, the skies are the limit, and who knows what the futures holds. So that's my next question to you. You're seeing a ton of innovation. I mean, you're a global innovation manager. You're probably seeing a ton of really cool projects at the beer garage, and we don't, when it comes to blockchain, like you see this with IoT, different technologies could affect each other in ways that we can't imagine. So besides blockchain, what is the coolest thing that you guys are working on right now at Beer Garage that you're allowed to speak about? I mean, I don't want to put you on the spot, but they were like, oh, this is really cool, because who knows, it might connect somewhere down the road.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. We have a lot of exciting projects and avenues. Let me think. I could talk about a supply chain traceability project, but I think I've spoken a lot about this already. Let me think about a cool project. So it doesn't have to be blockchain, right?
No, it doesn't have to be blockchain. As you see, things are interwoven. We have tech is always cool. How about, listen, this is what I want from you, okay? Listen, you said that your guys' job, all right, is that people come to you with the problem and you guys create a solution. Here's my problem, okay? I'm sitting on the couch. My beer is in the fridge. I want that beer delivered to me. How come you guys have not figured out some sort of delivery system, right? You're talking about supply chain. I want a supply chain from my fridge to my hand. How have you guys not figured that out yet? Like a Zumba or something? Are you guys working on that?
There is, right, but I would say not so much from your couch, more from the warehouse. So say you're in the warehouse and you're you're packing, you're helping to create the packing for the truck, the pallets. There's the palletizer, you're supervising that, but maybe you forgot that there's an additional product that needs to be brought, and the truck is there and ready to be loaded. Then maybe you would leverage something like an autonomous vehicle that brings you the missing pallet, right, or the missing pack for whatever instance. So there is some work that is being done on autonomous vehicles, especially for our warehouses. There's interest in that space, and of course it will bring enormous value because those machines become very reliable, reduce the variability, unless they need maintenance, which can be also programmed and planned for. So that's certainly one. But I will pick up on your scenario, and I'll give you an interesting project that we're working on that actually started in the Beer Garage in last year's incubator program. And it is about, so you're sitting there, suppose we already have developed the autonomous robot that will bring you the beer. So you sit there, you open your, let's say, Budweiser, and you drink a Budweiser, and you're like, ooh, this Budweiser tastes weird, right? We don't want that. We want our brands to be reliable wherever they are in the world and to satisfy the customer expectation. Some can say the perfect beer, right? We want it to be perfect. So how do we achieve this? Well, there's a number of different things in the process of making beer that affect its quality, right? And a project that started last year at the Beer Garage is a quality, how would I describe it? An engine that is capable of assessing the quality of the beer and projecting its end result and end state quality, packaged quality, throughout any step of the brewing process. So at the end of the process, we have a quality check, right? We have a sensory panel that, you know, tries the beer, and we can really identify if the beer is in spec or not, generally speaking, so that we ensure that we don't have a scenario like Yonah trying the beer and say, oh, it tastes weird, right? So to avoid being in a situation where our tasters try the beer at the end of the process and say, you know, this beer is not fit, it's not quality enough for it to be sold, and having to either, you know, blend it, dump it, or repurpose it. We don't want to get there. We want to have a way of checking the quality and predicting the quality at any step of the brewing process, so that if we find something that is deviating from the supposed flavor profile that it should have, we can correct it. We have leverage. Whereas if we get it at the end, well, there's nothing we can do, right? Apart from maybe blending it. But so we created a tool that is a machine learning algorithm that uses the data from our systems in a way, a similar thing to a digital twin, that is capable of identifying the quality of the beer and this versus the spec that it's supposed to have for certain parameters in every single step of the brewing process, by leveraging things like our sensors and our, you know, lab results that go in the process and creates data on the batches that we produce. Along the same lines, there's a big one that our CEO Carlos Brito has been working a lot with Microsoft to develop, a digital twin of a brewery, of an entire brewery. So, if you will, the umbrella that will supervise the specific aspect that I described is also a goal. You can imagine, you know, the potential that this could unlock. I mean, you have a digital twin of a brewery. You can try different, you know, parameters for the production and see how it affects the yield. You can try, you know, combining different ingredients, even to see what it would yield in terms of product innovation. Many things like that could impact very positively and disruptively the entire industry, not only the company.
Well, I mean, I could save you the time already. You don't have to work anymore. I volunteer to taste the beer at every step along the process. You don't have to build any fancy technology. I'll sign up. It's all I'll even do it for free. You don't even have to pay me. I'll taste the beer, assure quality control along it. In the meantime, this should free you up to start working on downscaling that autonomous vehicle so it can fit in my apartment and it can get me a beer from the fridge. Eduardo, thank you so much for taking the time to explain to us a little bit about, you know, the incredible work that the Beer Garage at AB InBev is doing, both in blockchain and to innovate the industry as a whole. So I thank you for your time, and for all our viewers at Reimagine 2020. I'm Yonah Hochhauser. Thanks for watching.